Hi, this is the next recording on the members raw file challenge, and this one is by Joanna. I'm not even going to attempt the second part. Right, turning off the information there so we can see the full screen. Right, now this is very different from my normal type of images. You know, we don't get a lot of this in the north of Scotland where I live. Now, there's a couple of curious things. This very dark area up here, it really draws my eye, whereas I feel that I would be wanting my eye to be drawn through the frame. So the brightest areas seem to be in here, off to the left-hand side. The darkest area is up here in the top left-hand side, and this part here seems to be getting a little bit lost. Now, I don't want to do too much cropping or playing around with this. I might just have a look at it in 16:9 though. That works better for me. So I'm just quickly going to do some, it almost looks like there's a grad in there. I don't suspect that would be the case, but it just seems like there's a grad. So I'm just going to open up that top section a little bit more there, just to sort of balance things off a little bit. Now, the reason I've taken off the bottom is I kind of like these trees falling into the bottom of the frame. It just feels just a little bit more balanced for me. Now, this is definitely a scene that I think is going to work better with it being airier. But I think I might just drop the overall exposure first of all. And then in terms of the color palette, we either go with a joyful, brighter color palette or a slightly more austere, cooler color palette. And fine-tuning that is just nothing more than personal preference. So by making it a bit moodier and a bit cooler, it's made it feel quite, quite creepy actually, which is kind of weird. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to tone down the white in that section and pull the highlights right down in there. And this way you can see we've just taken the heat out of that side because I really want the brightest light to be in that section. So again, I will do the opposite. So I'm going to get some dehaze, some negative dehaze, and some whites, and just really open up that foggy feel through in the center of the image there. And we can kind of spill it into here a bit as well. But this main section through the middle there is where, you know, we want the tunnel to go. That's where, and if we turn on and off those adjustments, you can see in the original file, this was the brightest area. And if I turn on those adjustments, you can now see that the center is exerting a bit more dominance. And we can just keep that dehaze really popping. And I'm just going to brighten that right up until it's not quite clipped, but getting close. And add a little bit of warmth into that light. So now you can see that we have a cooler feel here moving into a warmer feel. I think I'll use a radial filter here to further, was inverted. Now I'll pull it down quite a bit to start off with, and then I'll use my range mask to just take off the very darkest tones. So that way it doesn't get too dark. You know, we have darkened it quite a lot, but we haven't totally killed those blacks. And I'm going to cool that even further so that there's a kind of coolness on the outside leaning into a warmth in the inside. Now, I appreciate that I am getting quite falling away from reality with this image somewhat. You know, I feel definitely that I'm starting to kind of manipulate the tonality to serve my own evil purpose. But at the same time, you know, that maybe that's the mood I'm in today. I want to take a little bit of clarity off the whole image just to make it feel a touch softer overall. Because if we use clarity, you'll see what happens if we, that's going to clip, but you know, if we use a bunch of clarity, the whole scene just starts to feel too gritty. And what I'm trying to do is to make it feel softer. I think I will grab another brush here and just open up a little bit with those. Again, you know, just dodging and burning a little bit. And I wouldn't obsess about total accuracy with some of these things. I think it's very easy for people to start obsessing over light doesn't work in straight lines very well. You know, it tends to bend and it tends to bleed around things. It doesn't, it's in scenes like this, I don't think it's going to be super linear. So, you know, you can come in and just sort of paint in a little bit of light and atmosphere, and it's just adding a little bit of that three-dimensionality that we talk about quite a lot. I am going to just open up the exposure a little bit through in the back there. It was getting a little bit too dark. We don't want to draw the eye too much into that side, but we certainly don't want to close it off too much either. Just warm that light a little bit through there in the fog as well. So I think this is a shot where we've captured an atmosphere here that I really quite like. You know, I think we've created a reason to go through into that part of the frame. With shots like this, we can almost look at the HSL and use our hue slider to look at so that's making it greener and that's making it a little bit more yellow. So I've taken quite a lot of the greenness out of it just by using the hue slider here. And if I turn that off, you can see we've gone from a greenish, cooler to a slightly more yellowish, warmer color within those trees. And I think it's helped to just make it, I'm feeling, you know, a little conflicted between making it very moody and sinister versus making it kind of bright and optimistic and kind of ethereal. Because now I'm leaning towards making it a bit more joyful overall. So you can see that, you know, this thing's become an evolution of intent, where it started off, because I think the geometry, you know, the trees, they are quite creepy, you know, and the way they're leaning over like that, I think it creates quite a lot of tension. But because I put so much emphasis into creating this glowing light through the middle here, I'll balance that down a little bit more. It's got quite joyful in a way, so it's almost, if you can make it through these trees to the light, then everything's going to be okay. But we're in a place where it's that is still in doubt somewhat. So these are the sorts of metaphors that I start building into my photographs anyway. So Joanna, I hope this has been somewhat useful to you, and it'll be very interesting to see where Adam has gone with his representation as well. So thank you very much for submitting your image. It's much appreciated.